much. We'll get started. I appreciate you coming today. We're going to talk about how to improve your saleability in particularly job interviews. And Dale Carnegie, are you familiar with Dale Carnegie? Do you know Dale Carnegie? Do you know the company? Know a little bit about it? Yeah, you may know it through a lot of these books, Hitokasu, Michiwa Hirakeru. This book has sold 9 million copies in Japan, very well regarded. Many people have read the book. And as far as training goes, we're one of the larger global training companies. We have 90% share of the Fortune 500 companies choose us for their training because, you know, these are the most powerful, most wealthy companies in America and around the world, and they choose us because we get the results that they're after. So we are currently having offices in 100 countries around the world. We teach in 30 languages. So we've got a 106-year-old history. It means we've found what works and what doesn't work, particularly with adult learning. And one of our biggest fans is Warren Buffett. You know, everyone heard of Warren Buffett? Warren Buffett, right? The most successful ever investor in world history. Incredibly successful as an investor. Yet, when he was a young man, he had a very sharp mind and he went to very, very good schools, but he found he wasn't a good communicator. Intellectually, he was smart, but he had to get people to give him their money to invest. Now, if you know about investing, right, you hand over the money and you have to wait quite a while to discover if this investment was a good one or a bad one. A lot of trust involved, so your communication prowess becomes very important in that situation. Now, for him, what was very interesting was he really struggled. And a friend of his said, Warren, do the Dale Carnegie course, which he did. And ironically, also, in the process of doing that course, he met his wife. So he said it was a double bonus for him. Now, what he's showing here, this is a television interview. He has many interviews. But I notice every interview he's in, he mentions this. This is his office in Omaha, Nebraska. And this is his wall in his office. Has his Dale Carnegie graduation certificate. And he makes the point himself. He says, I don't have my university graduation certificate. I don't have my master's certificate on the wall. I have my Dale Carnegie certificate because this changed my life. And this is how powerful that communication piece is. And in Japan, we have some big fans too. Otani-san has become he used to be the president of Coca-Cola. He's now the president of Shiseido. And he's really moving things along at Shiseido. He graduated from our course in New York. And Murakami-san was the honorary chairman of Google. Big fan of Dale Carnegie. He does a lot of writing articles. He always mentions about Dale Carnegie. And Atarashi-san was the head of Johnson & Johnson, and he also, big fan, often refers to Dale Carnegie. So we have our fans in Japan too. So often we get this question, oh, yeah, that's American. That's good in America or good with the West, but we're Japanese. Is this really going to work for us? And so I asked our headquarters, because we do surveys after all the training. What did you think about the training? How'd it go? And I said, look, can you take 5 years in one bracket, aggregate it? What's the average satisfaction rate over those entire 5 years? And it came back at 97.7%. And I showed this to Japanese companies to show, see, this is the results of 5 years of surveys, the results of the training. Japanese people like it too, just like everywhere else, so it works. So, things we're going to talk about today are using some of the principles of human relations and communication skills from Dale Carnegie to make a success of doing interviews. Now, in some cases, a job interview is very similar to a sales interview. If you think about it, when you turn up for a sales interview or a job interview, it's a venue you've never been to before. It's a room you've never been in before, either a meeting room or whatever, with people you don't know very well, you've never met them before, and so you turn up, it's a very unfamiliar environment, very similar to a sales interview. So one of the things here is, start with a smile. And it sounds too simplistic, a smile, what are you talking about? But first impressions count, so we should plan them. Now, I'm a person who hires staff in Japan, and I've been hiring staff here for the last 26 years. So I get to see a lot of how people first create their first impression when they come into the interview. And it's very surprising to me how poorly they do it. They don't come in with confidence. They don't come in looking really professional. They look hesitant, they look shy, they look scared in a lot of cases. And they're certainly not smiling because they're very tense. They're feeling very tense. So the first impression is often not a good one. So what I'm saying here is, when we're thinking about, could be a sales call, could be a job interview, don't let the first impression happen by itself. Plan it. Plan it. When you open the door, when you first meet the person, make eye contact. Now don't keep staring at them till they get really, well, this is a bit weird, why does this person keep staring at me? But make eye contact and smile. Make eye contact and smile initially, and then if you're going to come forward, shake hands or bow, whatever it is you're going to do, depending on the context. But plan that first impression. I'm going to radiate positive energy. I'm going to smile. I'm going to stand up tall. I'm going to have good posture and show my confidence. And particularly in Japan, people are often like sort of half bowing, half walking, being very humble, which is fine for most of the time. It's not a great thing in a job interview, and particularly not a great thing in a job interview with Western companies. Stand tall, make eye contact, smile, radiate confidence, walk over, shake hands, bow, whatever you're going to do, but plan it. Don't let it happen by itself. Work out what time you want to get there early, so you calm down, composed, ready to go. Okay, this is what my game plan to create that first impression. This is the type of first impression I want to build, then build it. Second Dale Carnegie principle is begin in a friendly way. Now again, it sounds very obvious, but when you're under pressure, when a sales call or an interview, you're feeling pressure. You are feeling self-conscious, feeling a bit tense, and often that tension goes to the face. And what I notice is, for a lot of Japanese people, their face becomes very serious because this is a formal, serious situation which requires a formal, serious face. Except that, I take myself as an example, I don't think too many foreigners can differentiate between what is a friendly Japanese face and what is a serious face. It just looks a little bit angry. It looks a little bit unhappy. The face is too serious. So what we're looking for here is to make sure that your face looks friendly, your conversation is friendly. You've got to plan some light conversation at the beginning, because it's rare that you'll get straight into questions and interview. There'll be a little bit of small talk. Well, in that little bit of small talk, you've got to show you're not feeling the pressure, you're feeling confident, and begin with some small talk that gets the conversation going and comes across as you're a friendly person. You look like the type of person who's going to be able to work with our team and blend in very well. You look like the type of open person, flexible person who's going to fit in with a new environment. You're going to be someone who's going to be able to connect with other people very quickly and have a good relationship built with them. All of those things are coming from your starting point, which is, I want to be friendly from the word go. So you're planning it. Don't come in thinking, I have to be very formal, I have to be very extremely serious, very tense, show my degree of seriousness. That's not going to work. You can be serious, but you can be friendly. You can be serious and smile. You can be professional and do all of those sorts of things. But often, I see Japanese people not doing that at all. And so they're putting themselves at a disadvantage. Now, if you do a lot of interviewing like I do, you learn to deal with that because you realise, okay, this is Japan, people aren't trained on how to do this, I'll make an allowance. But remember, we're competing with many other people in a job interview situation. If we can project ourselves better than they can project themselves, we'll get the job. Or we'll get to the second round, which is where we want to get. Your job is not to get the job entirely. Your job is to get from the first round to the second round. So this is all geared up to get into that second round. So another one is begin with praise and honest appreciation. And I got a note here, saying with your eyes. So, people are taking up their time to interview you. They're very busy already. There's probably a lot of interviews they've got to go through. And so, you're showing your appreciation that you had the opportunity to come and do this interview. So when you make that conversation, be genuine about it, right? And say it in a way that's also a little bit differentiated. If you just say, well, thank you very much for the opportunity today. Yes, that's okay. That's okay. But if you can say it from the eyes, showing you really appreciate it, and say something a little bit differentiated as opposed to, thank you very much for the opportunity, that's very standard. What can you say that's a bit different? You might say something like, I see that your industry has got a seasonality to it, and now is a very, very busy time for your company in meeting the demands of the clients. So I know that everybody in your company is really focused on that, and yet at the same time you've got to be doing these job interviews. So I really appreciate that you're taking the time to meet me today when I know that there are many other competing things for your attention. See, that's showing something about research on the business, on the company. You're adding a little bit of differentiated value there. You're showing your appreciation in context as opposed to just thank you for the opportunity, which is a very standard, very, very ordinary type of sentence. Every time we're in an interview, we're trying to differentiate ourselves, whether it's a sales interview with a client or a job interview with an employer. How can we differentiate ourselves and stand out from everybody else compared to what they're saying? What can we say? And this is all build that first impression in the first few minutes. So these become very important. Now, as we get into the interview, they'll start asking questions, and often they'll be looking at your resume. Now, when I look at Japanese resumes, I often see people have had a lot of jobs, many cases. And so naturally, they're going to ask, what made you leave this company, or why do you want to leave your current company? Don't complain about your boss in the job interview. Don't say, my boss is terrible, my boss doesn't give me any work-life balance, my boss makes me work really long hours, my boss complains when I don't do a good job. Don't say that. Or my colleagues, they're difficult to work with, I don't like working with them, they're not cooperative, they're not friendly, I have trouble dealing with those people. Don't say that. These may be genuine reasons why you're not happy in that environment. And through no fault of your own, you can find yourself with a boss who's difficult. You can find yourself with colleagues who are not really the type of people you enjoy working with. That can happen. It's just a random chance of a collection of people who are in that company and you join it, that it's going to be perfect. But this is not the time for you to say that to the person you're talking to. You want to talk about more where you want to go. Don't talk negatively about what's happening in your current environment as much as, yes, I can do the current job I have, but I feel it's not tapping into all that I can actually bring to the table here. It's not giving me the full opportunity to express my capability and my creativity. Just the way the company's structured, the way our business is structured, I feel I've hit a bit of a ceiling, but I feel I want to challenge myself and do more. So you don't talk about bosses, you don't talk about colleagues, you talk about you don't feel you're at your maximum capacity, you're looking for a chance where I can be at my maximum capacity. You want to challenge yourself. Now, from an employer's point of view, we're happy to hear that, because anytime you go into a new job, that's challenging. Every time you go into business, there's always challenges in business. We want people who are coming up with solutions. We don't want people who are sitting there thinking, well, I want my pay every month and I'm waiting to be told what to do. Well, this job is very hard, I don't know what to do. No one wants to employ that type of person. What they want are people who are going to come in and say, I want to challenge myself. I want to step up. I want to show my full capacity, full capability. I want to demonstrate that I have the experience that can be applied in your company and take it to the next level. Those are the sorts of conversations that are more relevant. And I'm going to link these up in a little bit with how to take those elements and then put them into your conversation in a way that's very, very credible with the employer. Okay. So another one is try honestly to see things from the other person's perspective. Now this second quote here, that's a Dale Carnegie principle number 17. This is a quote from a gentleman called Zig Ziglar. Anyone heard of Zig Ziglar? Zig Ziglar was a very, very famous American sales trainer. He started with door-to-door sales, selling pots and pans, and became very successful, became a trainer. And he's got a lot of wisdom, and a lot of things he said. This is a great quote. You can have everything in life you want if you will just help other people get what they want. So when you think about that quote, it's quite perceptive, because be it in sales or if you're selling yourself in a job interview, your employer, they want certain things. And if you can help them to get what they want, then they'll look at you as a potential employee very positively. But to try honestly to see it from their point of view, often though, it's our point of view, right? It's like, what's in it for me? What sort of salary I do want? What sort of leave do I want? What are the benefits? What will be my status? What will be my work conditions? What will be the technology that I'll get to work with? All those sorts of things are all about us. What's my capacity to move up through the ranks? How quickly can I get promoted? Will I get a big bonus? Will I get big commissions? That's all about us. Now, in a first round interview, I never talk about money with prospective job seekers. Money doesn't even come up. And I tell them, all the money, conditions, talk, all of that, we do that in the third round. The object today is to get to the second round. And I just tell them that, because don't ask me about how much you're going to pay. That's irrelevant. If I'm not going to invite you back for a second round interview, the money doesn't even come into it. We've got to get to that stage. So leave that for the last round. If you get to the last round, that will automatically come up, and deal with it then. In the interim though, what is it that the client's looking for? Client in the sense of if it's a sales situation, or the employer if it's a job situation, right? So what are they looking for? And you have to try and think, what do I know about this company? Now the beauty of the internet today is we can find out a lot about companies. We can go on and find their homepage, which has probably got a PDF file of their latest annual report. And you definitely should look at the annual report of companies if they're a listed company. You can see that. Because what is a nice photograph of the president, usually Guy, just the way things usually go, in a nice suit and a nice office, and sort of leaning on the desk or something, looking quite relaxed. And he or she will talk about their vision for the company. Where are we going with this business? What do we hope? As the leader, what is my vision? Where do I see this company going? And talk very clearly about that. And either the president's part, or maybe a managing director or some other senior person in the company, will then go into some depth about the strategy. And the reason for that is, an annual report's number one objective is to appeal to shareholders, either existing shareholders or potential shareholders. So they're hitting what they think the shareholders want to know. What's the vision for the company? What's the strategy for the company? What are the financials for the company? Because that's usually in depth in the back of the report. So for someone like us, who don't know that company very well, that's goldmine. Absolute goldmine of what they're trying to achieve. So then you can start talking in terms of their point of view, because you know what it is, because you're reading it in the annual report. Now, what are they looking for? This is, what does my employer want from me? This was a result of a brainstorming exercise I did with a young man. He was failing his job interviews and not getting through the second round. Well educated, very good candidate, but not succeeding in the interviews. Why? He was approaching the interview from what he wanted. He wasn't thinking about what the other side wanted, what the employer side wanted. So we spent some time brainstorming. What would be some things that would be interesting to an employer? What are they looking for in their staff? And then we, having done that, we also did, what would be some of his personal attributes? What are some of his strengths that he has as an individual? And we brainstormed those. And then we put them into priority list. Now, he was focused on one company. That company happens to be Nike. and he's now today an employee of Nike. But this was what he chose for that particular company. Probably you'll find there'll be some similarity with other companies you're looking at too. But just as an example, he thought the number one thing they were looking for, this is his imagination, because he doesn't know yet, was team player. Well, that's probably going to be a high priority for every company, team player. Communication skills, people, social skills, leadership skills, right? Motivator, someone who's motivating the team. In this case, because he's a foreigner in Japan, cultural understanding. Now, if you're Japanese working for a foreign entity, same thing, cultural understanding of German culture. Bilingual, in his case, high degree of bilingualism. Global citizen portal. The company is thinking, right, you might join us in Japan, but we need you in South America. We need you in Australia. We need you in Germany. Are you mobile? Are you, in his case, he's quite young. So he's got to be portable. He's got to be a global citizen, putting down any country he can function and do well there. Brand ambassadorship. So the idea that out of hours of working for the company, he's still a brand ambassador for his company. How he behaves with other people, how he represents himself. He's representing the company 24 hours a day. He was putting, actually, I spoke to him, I said, you're putting things on Facebook that you shouldn't put on Facebook. You are a brand ambassador, then you can't put that stuff on. You can't express your opinion about another company like that, because that company might become a partner with your employer, and that's going to be embarrassing. So you've got to think 24 hours a day, as an example, right? Consumer view. So these are some things that he came up with. So what I'm suggesting to you is, you can do the same thing. What do I think this employer is looking for? From their point of view, what would be important? So we go through that list. Then this is a much longer list, just to show you how long it is. I'll show you a breakdown of this to show you the top ones, but this is his personal attributes, right? So there are many of them. We got them into rank order. So he thought his number one priority items were, he was reliable, he was organized, self-disciplined, creative, innovative, self-starter, take initiative, dedicated, work hard, energetic, confident. He had all of these attributes. Now, the point here is that's great. But when you're talking to the people in the company, if you believe that, say, for example, team player is something they're looking for, when you talk about your experience, you're going to mention, well, I felt that I learned a lot about being a team player when I was working on this project. It was quite a complex project, and we had many divisions in the company involved, plus some outside vendors. And I discovered that it was very, very important to make the teamwork function very effectively. And I discovered that my role in that team as a team player was critical in making that work. So I've really understood the importance of being a team player, and I believe that I'll be a great team player with your team. So you take an attribute that the company thinks important, or it might be something about yourself, I'm reliable. And so you say, you're trying to emphasize your capability, you say, I believe I'm a reliable person. The reason I say that is because I was given responsibility for this particular project, and I had to work very, very long hours, weekends. It was a strict deadline. I had to really get my piece done, because my piece was only one piece in a chain reaction of many other pieces, a sequence, and if I let them down, they couldn't do their work. So I had to really crack the whip on myself and put out a huge amount of work to make sure other people could do their job. I'm sure I could be a reliable player here in your company as well, because I've learnt the importance of reliability. So you're taking something like this. It's no good saying I'm reliable, I'm organised. You've got to take that and then find an example in the work that shows that's true, that you are reliable, that you are organised, that you are innovative, that you are creative. All of these things become important. And so, again, we talk in terms of the person's interest, talk in their preferred style. So, generally speaking, some people are very dynamic, very fast-paced, very energetic, quick to make a decision, very strong. They're going to have a lot of energy. When you're dealing with that type of person, try and mirror their energy. Lift your energy up. Be more like them. because we all like people who are like us, and we trust people more who are like us. So if you're very calm, very low energy, and they're very high energy, they don't connect with you at all. So you've got to be able to connect with them. You've got to get your energy up. On the other side though, if they're very calm, very considered, and you're very high energy, you might have to tone it down a bit. Take it down a bit. Right? Don't be so explosive. Be more calm. Be more considered. If they're a very detail-oriented person, 3 decimal places and a number type of thing, data, statistics, proof, testimonials. If they're very detail-oriented, when you're describing yourself and what you've done, be more detail-oriented as well. The opposite, if they're very big picture, and they don't want to talk about detail, want to talk about direction, big picture, and you're a very detailed person, talk big picture. Now, when I say that, it sounds easy, but to switch your conversation style, to switch your communication style, to go from what you're good at to something you're not used to doing is not easy. It's not easy. You have to practice that. You've got to say, it doesn't matter what style the people I'm dealing with are, I'll be able to be closer to their style than I am normally, so they feel more rapport with me. They feel, oh, I like this person, they like me. That becomes very, very important. So you're talking in terms of how you talk, and also their interests. Their interests are, we're looking for a certain type of person, so you've got to give examples how you show you're that certain type of person. And arousing the other person an eager want. Now, this is very interesting. This country has got 1.62 jobs for every person looking for a job. So there are more jobs than people at the moment. The unemployment rate's down about 2.3%, it's very low. So there are lots and lots of jobs. So you might think, well, that's no problem, I can get a job easily. True, but it's the right job, it's the best job, it's the job for you that we're looking for. So we're in the free agent era where we have got greater choice as people seeking a job than in the past. But you still got to get the person you're speaking with to have a strong desire to employ you. So don't forget, don't be arrogant. Don't think, oh, I've got the power, everyone wants me, I can do what I like, it's, you need me. Don't be like that. Be the other way around. Show what you can do for them. Talk in terms of their interests, all things we've spoken of. And so, finally, dramatize your ideas. Storytelling. When you're describing what you're doing in the company, tell stories. I had to work with the accounting department. We're looking at coming up with a different system. So I was with the CFO and the CFO's chief team, and we're on this off-site 2 days to work on this particular project, and blah, blah. You build a picture of the room, you build a picture of the season, you build a picture of the environment, the people, as a story. Tell that in the context of what you're doing, because that brings it alive to the person listening. Don't just be dry, oh, we did the project and this is what happened, boom, boom, boom. Tell more about the project than that, or tell more about the situation, the occasion, than just the bare bones. Really get the storytelling out, because people connect. We remember stories, and they're going to meet a lot of people. If your story is a good one, they'll remember your story. Okay, I'm going to pull it up there, and I'm going to invite any questions you may have on anything I've spoken about, or anything I have not spoken about. So who has the first question?